Let's get clear. The corporate world, it doesn't hire you. It hires a role. It hires a buyer, an approver, a security person, a tax person, an accountant, a lawyer, customer service, an IT person. And it's pretty easy and even normal to let that function become your whole identity. But maybe that leaves us with a dangerous question hanging in the air. If the job only wants the function, what happens to the rest of you? What happens to the human underneath that role? Does it just wait in the car? Does it go into hibernation? Or does it slowly start to dissolve because you stop feeding it? I don't know, for years I had this low level hum of anxiety, some sort of a gut signal. I wasn't sure what it was. I thought it was stress. So I tried to fix it with a better organization, my own organization, with meditating, with finding a hobby, with good vibes only bumper sticker horseshit that passes for wisdom. And I was wrong because the signal wasn't telling me that something was wrong with me. And it wasn't even telling me that the job was dangerous to me, to this me. It was the sound of the 40% of me that didn't actually fit into the org chart. And it was banging on the walls. You know, the philosopher, the writer, the part of me that operates on intuition, not data. I had partitioned that part off in order to be professional. And that signal that I was feeling and hearing was simply saying, yo, I'm still here and I'm starving. Now, we hear this phrase all the time, bring your whole self to work. And I used to believe that organizations maybe wanted that. It didn't make sense to me because it doesn't make sense to me because it's clear that there's an organizational structure. But then I thought maybe the goal is integration. But actually, no, because corporations aren't designed to hold human souls. They're designed to execute functions. You cannot walk into a board meeting and lead with your existential dread or your or your philosophy. You have to bring the professional avatar, and that's the shell. That's the function. And it's correct. The corporation needs to function that way. The problem isn't that we have this shell. The problem is when we forget that there's anything inside of that shell. And when we become the mask and we get so good at the performance, the confident executive, the reliable manager, we start to believe that the performance is the person. And we let that function eat at the soul. Now, there's some part of the function that is the person and some part of the person that is the function, but it's probably not the entirety. And the part that makes me nuts is that we get rewarded for doing that. We get the promotion, we get the raise, so we think, okay, this works. I'll just keep being the shell. And then the 40% gets smaller and quieter and quieter. And that's why I stayed. The money was good. The title was good. I was safe. I liked it. But that safety requires that you amputate half of your nature, half of yourself. And maybe that's not safety at all. Maybe that's slow motion suffocation. I didn't leave because I was brave. I left because I was pushed out. And looking back 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I realized that maybe that layoff saves that 40% inside. What would have happened if I'd stayed another 5 years? I don't know if that other part of me would have survived. I don't know. I don't know if I had already become the role completely. And maybe that tragedy is even worse than losing the paycheck. So my question is, can you be yourself and still make a living? Yeah. But not if you ask the job to do the heavy lifting for you. So the job is never going to ask for your whole self, not in a real way, because it doesn't actually want it. You have to keep your whole self alive on your own time. And you have to protect that. You have to have a life in yourself that has nothing to do with the KPIs, that has nothing to do with the metrics of the shell. You have to feed your roots. Even if the company only cares about the fruit from the branches, don't wait for this phone call to remind you who you are. Find the part of you that doesn't fit into the building. Find the part of you that's weird. Find the part of you that's quiet. Find the part of you that knows things that data can't explain, and then protect that part. Feed that part. Because when that ID badge turns off, that's the only part that you actually get to keep. I'll see you in the next one.